The garden is my haven, and talking about the garden and fruit trees and the greenhouse and the garden boxes, it's not just for food, for economic stability, although that's a huge part of it. It's also to keep me stable, so to speak. This is the place that I come when I want to be alone. This is the place that I take care of my emotional needs. This is something that God has given me, and a need that He has given me to be alone and to have time for myself. But this up here is my favorite. It's something that I've been working on for several years. This is going to be my forest garden. A forest garden can be extremely complicated to set up. I know that this garden is not going to get very much water, so I'm trying to put in systems that will put the water into the garden. One of those systems is, of course, the greenhouse roof. It is sloped to the north. That's south, this is north. So any water that lands on this roof is going to fall into the forest garden. There are 2 trees here so far. Give you a glimpse. This is an apricot. It is 3 years old now, I believe. It was a rescue. I'll have to talk about that another time. It doesn't fit in the topic. But that is an apricot. Oh, and you keep seeing these things on the ground. It's just because I haven't put them on the edges of the greenhouse yet. So I'm still working on that. This was the parent of the plant that is down next to the door that has survived for 4 or 5 years. But when I decided to use this area, it is very hot. It is always 10 to 15 degrees warmer up here. And now with the greenhouse here, I can feel the heat reflecting off of the greenhouse. So that gives me more idea of what we're working with up here. But this area is about 10 to 15 degrees warmer than the rest of the yard. And it stays that way year round. So you can see that we had drip lines up here. But when I planted my herb garden up here, even running the drip lines hour after hour after hour, nothing lived up here. The soil is almost straight sand and rock. It is surrounded, it has block wall on that side, block wall on that side, and it was so stinking hot. Nothing could survive. We actually have a couple of survivors from that time. Right here, we have rue, and we have tarragon. Those are the only things that survived up here, and I really don't know why they survived. They were just too stubborn to die. So when I decided to use the herbs mostly in other areas of the yard as landscape, because they were dying. And that left this area completely unused. And yes, it looks like a mess, but I'll explain what we've got here. The trees, this peach tree, apricot tree, and this baby peach tree are going to be the major cover. Now, the cover trees in a forest garden are specifically to create shade and reduce heat during the day. This is my forest garden anyway. We've got some other trees in here, or other plants in here. You can see that one's a gooseberry. This one is, I believe, I think that one's aronia, but I think it's dead. Anyway, so this little peach tree, it's only a year old. I replanted it last fall. And you can see, there, if you can get a good view of it, you can see that it's flexible. Okay. It's still alive. This right here is last year's growth. But peach trees often keep their roots close to the surface, and I want this peach tree to dig deep deep, deep, so that when it's not able to get any water, its roots will still be able to survive. And that is the purpose of this. This goes about 3 feet into the ground, and that is the only way that this peach tree is getting any water. I have to force the roots deep. I have to force it to dig its roots deep so that it can survive, because this area right here is even more of a desert than that. Okay? So, when the peach tree and the apricot tree are fully mature, they will form a canopy over this area, hopefully bringing the temperature down during the summer by 10 to 15 degrees, but we'll have to wait and see. I planted other things around the apricot to protect the root zone, and also to hopefully keep bugs out. I planted a bunch of different things around here that have that will keep the boars, hopefully keep the boars out of the root zone. And when these 2 trees are fully mature, they will create a canopy over this whole area and hopefully bring the temperature down. Right now, the main thing that I'm doing is growing soil. This is a bin. It was one of the blue bins that got a crack in it, so I broke it up. And I have leaves inside, leaves outside, leaves here. I got another bin right here, leaves and pine needles all the way along that edge. All of this is going to help build the soil, and it will create a layer of mulch over the soil so that the water does not evaporate as quickly. It's still rock and sand underneath, but over time that will be moderated as the... I don't want to get the neighbor's house. Over time that will be moderated as the plants develop. Eventually, this area will have not only trees, but also herbs, grasses in the form of grains. It will essentially be a self-maintaining forest. So right now it's in its infant stages. I need to reset the paving blocks, but I can see in my head what it's going to be when it grows up, and it is going to be amazing. Talk with you later.